Hello everyone, back to today's third video. So earlier on today we released some analogues for the autumn. You can currently find that video on the homepage, and that will be placed on the autumn updates page later on today. There'll be a written report that goes with that as well, just summing up everything that's discussed in the autumn analogues update. So that was the first video. Also did the Gasworthy Sunday Roundup. You find that video on the homepage right now as well. So that's your regular sort of Sunday eclectic look at this and that. This video, our third and final video for this Sunday, is having a look at the long-range ECMWF and Meteo France seasonal models, and we're going to go several months ahead with this. I think go through to the full autumn period, actually go through to September, October, November with this particular update. So you'll be brought up to date with what the long-range ECMWF and Meteo France models are predicting for the next few months with this video. The autumn 2018 seasonal model roundup, we'll get all of these long range models together, see what they're all showing. That's going to be released on Saturday next weekend. So that can be quite interesting. The ECMWF and Meteo France long-range models will make up part of that seasonal model roundup, but there will be several other models to look at as well. So that's going to be coming up on Saturday. It'll be the first video up next weekend. So I'll get on with your look at the next few months with the ECMWF and Meteo France long-range models right now. We're going to begin by having a look at the ECMWF mean sea level pressure anomalies for the next several months. So we're starting with the mean sea level pressure anomaly from the long-range ECMWF model for the tri-monthly period, July, August, September. These charts always broke down into sort of 3 monthly interlude, tri-monthly interludes. Just so you're using the Copernicus website, by the way, you can find a link to the Copernicus website, copernicus.eu, on the links page of Gasworthy's. So this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly from the ECMWF seasonal model for July, August, September, and it's placing an area of above average heights very, very close to the UK, extending it through the Atlantic and into Northern Europe as well. The jet stream is going off up there, so we're on the warm side of the jet stream's to our north, and so this implies that the EC seasonal model is predicting quite an anticyclonic late summer period. So a lot of high pressure influences and pretty warm weather, possibly continuing through into the second half of the summer there with the ECMWF seasonal model. Let's go through to the next tri-monthly period, and this one is going to take us further into the autumn, deeper into the autumn if you like. This goes for the tri-monthly period, August, September, October. And still we have an area of above average heights close to us. Now it's becoming more centred to our northeast. Also got a bit of a ridge through the western part of the northern Atlantic, and then there's probably some sort of trough in the 500 millibar flow doing something like that. We'll look at the 500 millibar heights in a moment. Essentially still an anticyclonic signal there for the end of the summer and going into the early autumn period, but possibly just beginning to turn a little bit more unsettled, possibly weakening that ridge off, and maybe starting to just get a little bit more mobility into the pattern, but still relatively warm and dry, I think, going into the early autumn period based on that mean sea level pressure anomaly. And then we go through to the final tri-monthly period, which takes us through the full autumn period. This one takes us from September through to November 2018. So this is what the ECM seasonal model is predicting for the autumn of 2018. And it's lowering the heights quite dramatically to our north. So that big blue area is appearing around Greenland and Iceland. The above average heights are disappearing. So this is implying that it's turning much more unsettled the further on we're getting into the autumn, which is probably what you'd expect, because autumn is a transitional season. So you'll probably expect that early on we may start off with a summer tight pattern, and then we sort of get the mobility going, we get the jet stream going, ramp everything up, and so it actually looks like quite an unsettled autumn overall. But do bear in mind the early autumn period is hinted at to be quite anticyclonic, and so obviously there's a deterioration going on with the weather pattern, maybe implying a very wet and unsettled November perhaps to come away with such a dramatically different sort of mean sea level pressure anomaly for September, October, November. But it does imply that the autumn anyway is likely to turn increasingly unsettled. That's mean sea level pressure anomalies. Let's have a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly as well. So this is what we see for the 500 millibar height anomaly for July, August, September. Above average heights, centred very close to, so very much the same as what the mean sea level pressure anomaly is showing, really. A lot of anticyclonic influence through late summer and sending the jet stream off to our north. So relatively warm and dry conditions would be expected from both the mean sea level pressure anomaly and the height anomaly as we go into kind of like the end of the summer. That is August, September, October, the tri-monthly period, taking us to the end of the summer and into the early autumn period. Definitely the above average heights are becoming centred over Scandinavia, with below average heights beginning to appear already to the south of Greenland. So actually this tri-monthly period may be a little bit more unsettled than first look like in terms of a mean sea level pressure anomaly. It does look as though even as early as August, September, October, we may be starting to turn things increasingly unsettled. Still relatively warm because the air is coming in from a southeasterly type direction, so it's not particularly cold, but certainly turning more unsettled and probably changing things around September, October perhaps. And then we go through to the final tri-monthly period with mean sea level pressure anomalies. This one takes us through the whole of the autumn, September, October, November, with below average heights out to the northwest. Above average heights now becoming centred towards the east of Europe. So this is definitely more unsettled. There's a trough within the 500 millibar flow, and that's proper autumnal conditions there for the autumn. Having a look at the temperature anomalies then, so this is what we see for July, August, September, and generally a little bit warmer than average really for much of Northern Europe. You'll notice the warmest anomalies to average are actually across the eastern parts of Europe, in the west and northwest of Europe. So we're close to average, possibly being a little bit above average with the temperature anomaly, but not a particularly big deviation, which is maybe a bit of a surprise because it is quite an anticyclonic signal that we had there for July, August, September. So you probably expect to be a bit warmer than that, really, but the model itself is going for close to or slightly above average temperatures for that tri-monthly period. Then we go through to the next tri-month period. This one is August, September, October, and again the warmth really is across the north and the east of Europe around there. So Scandinavia down to Eastern Europe or down through East Europe into Southeast Europe. It's warmer than average. In the west, generally, it's cooler. One thing that could explain that is that we've got this big colder than average temperature anomaly in the northern Atlantic. And that is there because the sea surface temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic are substantially colder than average. So if the sea surface temperature anomalies in the Northern Atlantic are colder than average, then so too at this time of year will the overall air temperature be colder than average in the North Atlantic. It's not the same when you get through to winter. If you have colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic in the winter, it'll still be substantially warmer than average in terms of the air temperature if the wind is from the west, and that happens due to the oceanic effect on the temperatures in the northern part of the Atlantic. But at this time of year, in summer, in early autumn, then if you've got a cold anomaly in the North Atlantic in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies, generally the air temperature will be lower. If we're bringing the air in from off the Atlantic, then the model is thinking that that's going to dampen the temperature anomaly down. So that's why it's probably why it's coming out with average or just slightly above average temperatures, despite that anticyclonic signal through the end of the summer. So that's the temperature anomaly for August, September, October, coming out close to average for most of Western Europe. Scandinavia, Eastern Europe coming out warmer than average. Let's have a look at the temperature anomaly for the autumn of 2018, and then we come out a little bit milder than average. It's going for a milder than average autumn pretty much for the whole of northern Europe. So the ECMWF model is predicting warmer than average temperatures, only a little bit above average for the UK and for Ireland. The warmest anomalies to average again are over in the west of Europe. Alright, just check to make sure that's recording. So, yeah, we're recording. And sorry about that, I answered the phone and taken that call. So, we'll get on with the rest of the ECMWF and Meteo France seasonal look ahead. So, we went through to the temperature anomalies for the autumn of 2018 with the ECMWF long-range models. So just to recap on that, warmer than average across Eastern Europe, a little bit above average in the west of Europe, but not as warm as it is across further north and east over Europe. Temperature precipitation anomalies, I should say. Got to get back into the flow again. So precipitation anomalies now with the ECMWF seasonal model coming back to July, August, September, and looking like this. Generally, most of Northern Europe is a little bit drier than average. So we've got these drier than average precipitation anomalies here for the UK, Ireland, going into northern Germany and Denmark, and then over towards the northeast part of Europe. That's because we're building a ridge through from the Atlantic into northern Europe, of course. It looks like southern Europe still coming out a little bit wetter than average. So it wants to maintain, actually, and interestingly, it wants to maintain the early summer pattern that we've had, which is northern Europe to be drier, southern Europe to be wetter. It wants to maintain that through to the end of the summer, essentially, through to July, August, September, which would be quite surprising because it's had a long run, this weather pattern anyway. So it would be a little bit surprising if this continued right way through whole of the summer and into start of the autumn, but that's what the model wants to do anyway. Have a look at the next precipitation anomaly charts, which is going to take us from August through to October. So still a little bit drier than average here across northern parts of Europe, but actually we are going closer to average, which is telling us that it's probably beginning to turn a little bit more unsettled as we get through to the very end of the summer and into the early part of the autumn. Probably just starting to turn a little bit more unsettled, and so rainfall is beginning to return closer to average after being quite dry. And then we go through to the final precipitation anomaly, which takes us through the autumn, this one taking us from September through to November. And then you see most of those drier than average precipitation anomalies have gone. Europe generally being seen to be close to average. You'll notice that just to the west of Ireland, it's a little bit wetter than average there. It's also a little bit wetter than average across inland parts of Spain, central Spain. Otherwise, not a great signal, but I think, again, from where we start off at, through July, August, September, to where we end in September, October, November, it's probably hinting that it's turning increasingly unsettled. You will also notice it is a bit drier than average, however, across the far northern part of the Atlantic, so you can't see Greenland on that view, but Greenland is kind of like up here somewhere. So just to the south of Greenland, it's a little bit drier than averages, which is possibly hinting that the model is indicating some sort of blocking feature, perhaps later in the autumn, to be getting going close to Greenland. But that's really speculative. I think the broad takeaway for what the ECM is doing is that the late summer is looking fairly warm, dry and anticyclonic. There's a deterioration taking place, possibly quite early in the summer, actually, in the autumn, I should say. Deterioration in the early autumn, a ramp up of the Atlantic, possibly leading to actually quite an unsettled autumn by the time you get through to the second half. So that's the ECMWF. Now have a look at Meteo France. So again, this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly from Meteo France, and this one is taking us through July, August, September again. So we have above average heights with, it means zero pressure, so we have high pressure essentially centred through the central part of the Atlantic. Otherwise, not much else to go on, actually. It's a weak signal, but maybe this hints at being a little bit more unsettled there for the latter part of the summer compared to what the ECMWF is showing. We go through to the next tri-monthly period with Meteo France, and then actually very much at odds with what the ECM is showing, because this one raises the heights through this tri-monthly period, which is August, September, October, raises the heights quite strongly. So actually it's going for more of an anticyclonic signal through the early part of the autumn, as opposed to the latter part of the summer. At this point, the ECMWF is starting to turn things more unsettled. And then we get through to the autumn itself. This one takes us from September through to November. And we weaken the heights off again. So we've got above average heights through the central Atlantic, below average heights up there, bit of a blocking signal over towards the north of Scandinavia, but essentially it looks like it's going back to average heights and pressure and probably turning rather more unsettled again. This is how the 500 millibar height anomaly is looking from Meteo France for July, August, September, with above average heights through the central Atlantic. Again, not much else to go on, but you will think this is probably indicating a more unsettled sort of late summer type period. Then we move through to the next tri-monthly period with Meteo France, which is August, September, October, all looking very different, I have to say, to what the ECM is showing. So this has above average heights through the middle of the Atlantic. Notice a lot of orange and red going on up here as well over the sort of northern latitudes. So there's a bit of blocking being signalled there through the early part of the autumn, which is quite interesting, bit of northern blocking taking place. So quite what that's doing, I'm not sure, but with the high pressure there and quite a blocking signal up there, you'll think there's probably going to be low pressure coming through here with the jet stream, so that could actually be quite unsettled. But it is very, very different, that, to what the ECMWF shows. And then we go through to the final tri-month period, which is for the autumn, September, October, November, with a 500 millibar height anomaly. We've got above average heights through the central Atlantic, so that's the Azores high, of course, down there. But we do still have quite a strong blocking signal up to our north over the northern latitudes, if you like. Possibly in response to ice melt. Perhaps the model is predicting a lot of ice to melt through the end of the summer, a lot of Arctic sea ice, and maybe that's why it's coming up with that sort of blocking signal, although perhaps not, because also over Canada it's also going for quite a lot of blocking there in terms of the 500 millibar height anomaly. Anyway, for us it looks like it's not a desperately unsettled signal from a height or mean sea level pressure anomaly perspective, but it does look as though it's probably turning more unsettled as we get through into the autumn. That is quite a puzzle compared to what the ECM is showing. Temperature anomalies with Meteo France are looking like that for July, August, September, so just cooler really than what the ECM shows, generally coming out average to a bit cooler than average across the UK and Ireland. Central parts of Europe down to Spain and Portugal close to average, warmer than average anomalies really shoved off right into the far eastern part of Europe. The temperature anomaly for August, September, October looks like that. So again, the northwest of Europe is cooler overall. The UK and Ireland coming out close to, or possibly hinting at being a bit cooler than average. Southern Europe is turning warmer, so turning warmer through the Med. But the real warm anomalies again are shoved off way over towards the eastern part of Europe and close to the Black Sea. Scandinavia also looking relatively mild as well. And then we get through to the final tri-monthly period, which is for the autumn, September, October, November. Temperature anomaly with Meteo France comes out like that. So the UK and Ireland still rather close to average, maybe hinting again at being a little bit cooler than average. Otherwise, most other parts of Europe are warming up. So it wants to gradually increase the warm temperature anomaly, this model, across many parts of Europe, but the UK and Ireland actually are coming out closer to average. And then finally, we've got the precipitation anomaly. So July, August, September precipitation anomalies with Meteo France look like that. And overall, not a strong signal really, but I think overall possibly a little bit on the drier than average side for the UK and for Ireland. But it is a strong signal. It's close to average, really, as it is for many parts of Europe. Very little wetter than average anomalies going on. There's very little in way of above average rainfall. Northern Scandinavia and possibly down to the southeast of Europe. Otherwise, most other places are close to average or a little bit drier than average. The next precipitation anomaly for August, September, October, and this is at odds with what the ECMWF is showing, because at this point the ECM model wants to start turning things more unsettled, but Meteo France actually has us drier than average for the UK and Ireland for that tri-monthly period. Most other parts of Europe are coming out with average precipitation anomalies. And then we finish up for the autumn itself, which is September, October, November tri-monthly period, of course. And we're going sort of close to average then. And most parts of Europe coming out close to average as well. Very little wetter than average anywhere across Northern Europe. Notice again, interesting, substantially drier than average to the south of Greenland just there, so possibly hinting that by late autumn we're setting up some sort of blocking feature. And we saw it on the height anomalies actually. Meteo France does want to raise those heights quite a lot across the Arctic, across the polar field, as we get through into, particularly I would have thought, the latter part of the autumn. So it's all a little bit of a mixed bag. It's quite confusing. The ECMWF model wants to start things off pretty dry and warm for the late summer period. Actually, could just continue the pattern that we've had through the early summer, really, into the late summer. And then quickly turn things much more unsettled, I think, as we get through into the autumn itself. Whereas Meteo France, that one looks quite strange. It starts off relatively cool, gradually warms things up over Europe as we get through the autumn, although the UK is actually staying close to average with the temperature anomaly. And there's a bit of a mix of tri-monthly periods, which are at times rather dry for the UK, but also at times close to average. So that's quite a confusing one. And maybe the ECM looks the most reliable out of the two. We'll have to wait and see. It's all speculative. These long-range models are highly prone to chopping and changing, so they could look very different next month when we do next month's update. But that's what it's showing now anyway for this month. If you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're enjoying what we're doing. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you would like to become a patron or donor for Jul-Nov, then you can come to our Patreon page. This is it. This is the Patreon page for Jul-Nov. So you can become a patron for Jul-Nov, donate a little bit of money every month as a patron for Jul-Nov, and that will be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, you just want to make a one-off payment, you can come to PayPal. This is Jul-Nov's PayPal page and give us a one-off donation. And as I say, all patrons and donations are well and truly appreciated, and thanks very much to everybody for doing that. I'm going to leave a link to both Patreon and PayPal pages in the description box at YouTube, and also linking across all of the pages at Jul-Nov to our Patreon and PayPal pages. Right, so that's it for your longer range update in terms of the ECMWF and Meteo France seasonal models. These two models will form part of the first autumn 2018 seasonal model roundup that will be released on Saturday. So you'll know anyway what these two models are showing for the autumn, but there'll be several more long-range models to include in that update. Don't forget to check out the Jul-Nov Sunday roundup and also have a look at our autumn analogues. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.